Spartan44. I hope Kiz gets the opportunity he deserves, and they use money to upgrade the outfield and pitching staff.
See, and this will take us. We were going to talk some baseball appropriately, but like I do root for Kiz, and he's on our show, so I'm not unbiased. I'm not saying I am, but what I've said all along is I'm for them getting another catcher. I just don't want to see them making that the priority that uses too many resources, because I honestly think the biggest need is a big bat. And I'll say this again. You had Albert Pujols in the second half having an unbelievable season, as good as anyone in baseball, really. And now he's gone. And you had an offense that stopped and started, particularly towards the end of the season. And if you don't think that's the number one need to make sure that doesn't happen, and don't waste the Arenado and Goldschmidt combo at the corners, you're crazy. That's got to be the number one priority, in my opinion.
So how about this? Could you, though, kill two birds with one stone? Can your catcher be, I don't want to say the big bat, can the catcher be enough of a big bat?
I don't think
so.
Not
to replace Albert. So you're saying, I know we were talking off air about the Toronto catchers, somebody like Sean Murphy. I do think Wilson Contreras, which is going to cost money, but that is a nice bat. I mean, he's not. Look, Albert Pujols, and the name is different. Albert Pujols last year was unbelievable. But I think could Wilson Contreras, could he replace Albert Pujols' numbers? I think he'd be pretty close to hit 20, 25 home runs.
See, to me, it's not enough. And don't get me wrong. You talk Murphy, you talk Contreras. I get it. I'm fine with that. Contreras, there's kind of two schools of thoughts on his defense. I go by what I saw. I don't think he's necessarily a defensive upgrade. Clearly an offensive upgrade, and I would welcome that. I'm just saying I want a 30-home run guy. Contreras could come here and kind of give you the same defense we've had. He's got a good arm, I'll give you that, and give you 20 homers. That's not going to transform a lineup that I'm concerned could fall back into patterns, especially if things don't work out with the outfield, right? If O'Neill can't avoid injury, if we don't see Carlson take the next step, if Newt isn't, the guy that we think can be really, really productive, then you're going to have an offense that's stagnant. I want to see a big bat in the middle of the lineup. That would be my number one priority. And then I would look at things like another bullpen arm with a swing and miss kind of stuff, and an upgraded catcher that can either start or at least be part of a platoon, which overall makes the catching position stronger.
All right, let's have some fun with this, because I was looking at this yesterday for YouTube, and I did a video about the shortstops, but then I went through and I was looking at
how'd it do, by the way?
Free
Can
agents.
I ask you that?
It did well. It's doing well.
Like, how many views do you get on that?
Well, for me, good. If you can get 2,000 to 3,000 views, that's good. That's good for me. Every channel's different. If you have a smaller subscriber base, obviously Kenny's videos do way better, but he has 10 times the subscribers that I have. So I was looking at the free agents this year. So when you talk about a bat, are you specifically thinking outfielder or DH type?
Yes, and the other thing is, I think it would be done by trade, and I don't really have anyone in mind. I just have the type of guy in mind. Because a lot of times these things come out of nowhere with the Cardinals, and when they do bring in an impact guy, it's usually via trade. And I'm not talking about a Jock Peterson, who I like, by the way. I would have liked to have seen him, like a Schwarber guy, but not someone who's going to hit 218.
So you ruined my game, because I was going to go through the free agents and see if you're interested in any of these guys, but you're saying it's coming via trade.
I do. I think that. I mean, that's what just based on who's out there and what they've done in the past. And I'm not, trust me, I've talked to no one about this. I'm just giving my own thoughts.
So how about any interest in J.D. Martinez, who's supposedly going to make about $15 million a year? He's 35 years old. Would be a DH, obviously. Right-handed bat.
Don't love a right-handed bat. His power numbers down. He's kind of on a downward trend. But, yeah, I mean, if that's all you got, I mean, I believe he'll give you 25 homers and give you some clout in the middle of the lineup. But I'm talking about a guy who isn't necessarily a stopgap. But you'd have to deal some of your young talent, probably from the outfield. And I understand the risks involved. But I would like to see a big three. We had a big three again when we had Albert. And with Walker, maybe that guy, I get that, but he's not there yet. So that's what I'm thinking.
Can I sell you on Brandon Belt, left-handed hitter? 34 years old, 34 and a half, going to make about $16 million. That seems
Still
high.
He's had a long prime. He's been good for about a decade now. Still hitting well.
First baseman, right?
I think he can play a little bit of outfield. He's, to me,
Not
more
so
of a DH type. I don't think the Cardinals are going to spend money on somebody like that. I think if you're going to get that guy, don't you think it's going to be the Corey Dickerson type? It's going to be more of... Now, I agree with you of needing the big bat, but I think if they supplement the outfield, it's going to be more of the one-year deal for a guy that's making about $4 or $5 million.
What were Belt's numbers last year? I can't recall offhand. Because he's a professional hitter, and he's been in the postseason. Like, he's a good player. But if you're saying, here's your upgrade, I'm going to say it's not enough.
So Brandon Belt last year did not have a very good season, was banged up, 78 games. Dang, hit .213. The year before, he had 8 home runs. The year before, 2021, he's been hurt a lot. Only played 97 games in 2021, but hit 29 home runs. Hit .274, slugged .597 in 2021. Had an OPS plus of 160.
Yeah, that's a guy. But you're not going to get that guy. You know, you're going to pay a guy for having that season that he may not have for you, that you bring him in to be that guy.
Now, I mentioned this, or we talked about this off air, and you kind of peaked your ears up a little bit. Anthony Rizzo, 33 years old, going to make probably about $21.5 million per year. Anthony Rizzo as your DH. What do you think about that?
I would love that. Why? Because he's a left-handed bat, because he's a guy who, if he has to spell Goldschmidt at first base, is very good there. I love him as a person. I know about him as a guy in the clubhouse. He would check every single box, except he's going to be too costly.
So how about, this is a name where the second I saw it, I thought to myself, this feels like a name that the Cardinals will actually do. And we've mentioned this guy's name before, and he checks some of the boxes. Michael Brantley, left-handed hitter, much cheaper, going to make probably around $8 million, is older, 35 years old, but Michael Brantley is one of those names we've heard the last 2, 3, 4 years that could be a good
5,
fit.
6 years,
yes,
maybe.
A long time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I want a guy who's an upgrade.
I feel like the ship has sailed with that one. He'll be 36 by the time the season starts. He has no pop anymore. That was kind of the nice thing about him, was he would bat 300, but he would also get you, 18 to 20 home runs. And you're lucky to get a dozen from him now.
But isn't that the type of move they probably will make? I'm just saying that, look, if they go trade market, which I think very good chance for a catcher, but are they going to trade a bunch of assets for that bat? And I don't know who that person is that has years of control. I just feel like the Corey Dickerson left-handed, whether it's platoon outfielder, DH type, I think that's the move they're going to make. And maybe folks disagree with me. So what I like about the Cardinals position players is I can't tell you who's actually going to be good in 2023. But they have so many guys, in my opinion, to throw into that bucket. Like, I'm not so down on Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman and some of these guys that I feel like they're not going to be good players. I still think, I know he has to stay healthy, but Tyler O'Neill, we'll see if he's moved. I know Mark Fine said he thought Tyler O'Neill was the Cardinals' biggest trade chip this offseason. But if you start just going through names and you go Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Nolan Gorman, Juan Yepez, Brendan Donovan, potentially Jordan Walker, I feel like I just threw out about 6 names. Isn't there a good chance that 3 of them have good, above-average offensive seasons?
I get that, and for the record, I want O'Neill back because I love that guy, and I think he's a different type of talent, that he hasn't even tapped into all aspects of his game. But I do think there's a danger of kind of banking everything on hope. I hope that one of these guys, what if it doesn't? So what I'd like to see is them parlay some of those chips. And I'm not saying I want to see anyone go. I like all those guys, and I think you're right. Chances are those guys are going to be really good players. Why? Because they've done it pretty much at every level of the minor leagues. And we don't even know what Walker can be because he's just scratching the surface. But what I'm saying is, if you have the opportunity to parlay possibilities into something that's a proven commodity that you can plug right into the middle of the order, I would do it because certainty would be something that I would like to get, especially with Arenado and Goldie getting up there. How many years you're going to have, this kind of production? I would act now to ensure that there's certainty.
See,
am I crazy?
No. I love that idea. I also just think you look at the Cardinals and how they normally go about their business with their players. I think sometimes when we think about, for example, Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson, and we think about their 2022 seasons, we think about them worse than they actually were. And I'm saying that from the standpoint of, like, Tyler O'Neill was so good in 2021, there was almost no chance he was ever going to replicate that. Now, his issue is staying on the field. He needs to be healthy. But when he was on the field, he was essentially league average offensively. Same with Nolan Gorman. And that was his first year up. So if you're looking at this from OPS plus, they're around 101 for Tyler O'Neill, 106 for Nolan Gorman. Like, don't you think there's a pretty good chance those guys have a better year? And all of a sudden you're looking at a guy who's now 20% above league average. Like, I don't think that's out of the question.
I think there's a good chance.
At all. Especially for Carlson, I think, was banged up. And I'm still not saying, he should have been untouchable, like you don't move him for Juan Soto. But if people have already moved on from Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman because he had a rough second half in his absolute rookie year, I think people need to kind of pump the brakes on that. Like, these guys also have a lot of good seasons in the minors. They do have a track record of being good hitters, and they're still really, really young.
Good at every level. And I'm not saying I doubt them. What I'm saying is, and by the way, I disagree. I think there's a chance that Tyler O'Neill can be that guy that he was when he had his breakout season. I really do. I think he's that kind of talent. His bat's quick. He's got speed. Like I said, I think at some point, if he's healthy, he can utilize that speed more so and become more of a weapon and be more of a multi-dimensional hitter. I really believe in that if he can stay healthy. But all of them have ifs. And all I'm saying is, and I believe in all of them, I like all of them, I agree, I'm not writing anyone off. I'm just saying if you can get more certainty by packaging up some of these guys, okay, this guy has a better track record of doing it every year, and we can get him, the cost is going to be some of these guys who have huge upsides, I'd probably do that.
Yeah, that's where, when I just look at the Cardinals' priorities, all due respect to Kiz, who we love, I just think that their priority for 2023 is catcher because they have less certainty there than any other position. So if you look at catcher, you would like to be able to have a guy you can say, hey, he's my catcher for the next 4 or 5 years. I think at shortstop, it's a different conversation because I believe the Cardinals have looked at Tommy Edman. They say, you know what? He's serviceable. He's fine. If he's your shortstop for 2023, we're good with that. And we really think that Mason Wynn could be the guy for 2024. So I think the Cardinals don't look at shortstop as a long-term problem, but they have to figure out 2023. And that's where, look, they need another bat. They need to lengthen that lineup. They need a table setter or two. That's why Brandon Nimmo, I'm guessing you probably don't love him, but he's a guy who gets on base.
I get it.
He's always gotten on base. He's also a guy who's always injured.
Injured, a lot. And we already have that. And so I don't consider that a difference maker. My thing about catcher, and this is why I get killed on Twitter, is I know they're going to bring someone, and they should. I'm saying I just don't think that you're going to get a guy who will be transformative offensively for that batting order. Because, I mean, where you were with the offense, from Yachty over the past few years and Kisner, the bar is kind of low like that, and you're still good offensively. Like, all you need is to upgrade that a little, and what you're going to get isn't going to change the lineup anyway, because my guarantee is they're probably still hitting in the bottom third of the batting order. What about the middle of the order? I don't want to lengthen it. I want to strengthen it. Like that. They're missing a bat that was a huge part with Pujols, and they got to replace it. And so, to me, it's strengthen versus lengthen at this point.
I like that. I like that little rhyme there.
I just made it up.
So I can't sell you on Sean Murphy.
No, I like him, and I'd be fine with that. I think
18 bombs last year?
I think he's the best of the crop, but he's going to cost you a lot, right? He's going to cost you a lot in terms of giving up stuff. He'd be the guy I would be happiest about. I just don't think that's enough in terms of offsetting what you may lose with the lineup offensively.
So Sean Murphy, Gold Glove.
I'll be glad to take him.
2021. Last 2 years, he hit 18 bombs this past year in 148 games. He hit 17 bombs in 119 games in 2021. We know Oakland has a big ballpark with a lot of foul territory. I haven't looked at all of the analytics of their ballpark.
You don't have to.
236 career hitter, but so 326 on base, not great. 429
fine for a catcher.
Slug. So he's career OPS plus 114.
Now that's my point.
That's pretty good.
But
15 to 20% above league average.
He's the guy I would prefer, and I like his defense out of the bat, and he's an upgrade offensively. But my point is this, and maybe I'm wrong, he's not going to transform your lineup offensively. So you're going to invest a lot in that. So, again, for me, it comes to priorities, how you use your resources. And he'd be the guy I would love to see more than the other available catchers, if he's available. I just think he's not going to transform the lineup enough, and you still might have some offenses. Look, no team is going to be perfect. I'm just looking for where I would prioritize. I would like to hear Nate on this.
Yes.
Nate, am I crazy on this? And kill me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't know if you're crazy on this, but I do think that probably where the team will ultimately decide to address some of their shortcomings won't actually appease what the fan base is craving, which are superstar players. And, I think yesterday I saw Joe Sheehan put out, Bernie was talking about this, that, he has the Cardinals right now rated as like the 15th team, but he points towards the necessity to see massive leaps for Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman. He talks about some of the rotational shortcomings and then also rotation shortcomings and then the catcher situation, which probably needs to be addressed. But, you've got Goldie and Arenado, who are going to be respectively 35 and 32 at some point next season. And I think you need to probably look at complementing those two stars with some veteran bats that could win next season or in the next two seasons.
So you agree with me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, I agree. All these things. My thing is I think Gorman's going to be a good player. I like Carlson, but you don't know. We don't know what was going to be with Tyler O'Neill with his injury. All those things are unknowns. So if you have the opportunity to get something that's more of a certainty in the middle of the order, and you just said, yeah, certainly the catching has to be addressed. I agree. But the priority should be another bat offensively to utilize what you have with the guys at the corners that aren't going to be there forever. So do it now.
Can I sell you on Andrew Benintendi?
No.
Andrew Benintendi, the contract that Spot Track estimates him to get is pretty surprising to me. First of all, he's younger than you think. He's 28 years old. Andrew Benintendi, he hits left, which the Cardinals need. He only hit 5 home runs this past year. He was really, really good. 120 OPS plus, but he only hit 5 homers. I mean, his best home run season with the Red Sox was 20 back in 2017, but they have his estimated contract at $17 million a year for a 6-year deal, making over $100 million. To me, he's not worth that.
No.
That's crazy to me. I know he's younger.
He's a piece.
He's an overall. He's a better hitter than he is a power hitter. But to me, I am not spending $100 million on Andrew Benintendi.
I guess what I'm saying is, I'm fine with adding pieces, and a lot of the guys you're trying to sell me would be great pieces.
I'm not trying to sell you. I'm just.
I know you always. You
no,
said
this is
sell
more
it.
of a. I'm interested.
No, I like it.
I'm interested in the conversation, and it surprises me when I read some of these guys' names. Like Spot Track does this for a living. They're pretty right on of what guys are going to make. And some of these guys, it really surprises me, for example, that you could get Wilson Contreras at essentially the same average annual value as Andrew Benintendi at a position in catcher, which there's not a lot of offensive catchers. There's 5 million offensive corner outfielders. Like, yeah. I'm not paying for that.
I don't know if I believe that. I think Contreras is going to out-earn him by far.
But Contreras might get a 4-year deal for $70 million. Yeah, I don't.
A lot
I
of
would
it
be
depends on who the suitors are and if they're
100.
matching up against each other and how the agent plays it. That's why those things, I think it's a tough read for the things that try to prognosticate that.
But they're basing it on what folks make at their same position, at their same age. Like, they're pretty right on in terms of comparing, for example, the shortstop market and looking at what Carlos Correa and so Trey Turner. They have Trey Turner making $33.6 million per year on a 6-year deal. Doesn't that feel about right? 6 years, 200. I think he'll probably get more years than that.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, and who knows if there's two teams that have cash fighting it out for him, where it goes. I mean, that's the real unknown. What do they project Rizzo?
Rizzo, $21.4 million. Anthony Rizzo is 33 years old. And let me see what kind of deal they're looking at. So they're looking at I think this sounds about accurate to me. A 3-year deal for $64 million for 33-year-old Anthony Rizzo. That seems about what he would get.
Okay, and if you told me the Cardinals are going to sign Rizzo to be their DH for 3 years, they're going to upgrade a catcher with one of the names out there, and they're going to go out and they're going to get a bullpen guy, another arm with strikeout stuff, I'd be like, done. Let's have lunch. Is that
hard to imagine? Rizzo wants to just become a DH.
Agreed, but maybe he wants to win. Maybe he's seen the Cardinals, best fans in baseball. Maybe he's seen the operation and be like, that's a pretty good landing spot.
The wild card in all this is, of course, Trey Turner. And it was sort of teased out there by Greg Amsinger a week and a half ago. And he addresses so many issues that I think the Cardinals could clean up with one signing. And it's a leadoff hitter, it's pop, it's stability at the shortstop position. Even though I'm not saying they don't have it right now with complementary players, I don't think you have anywhere near the caliber of what Turner would do to a shortstop position for St. Louis. And it would give you a big three that I don't know if anybody in the National League wants to go up against between Goldie, Turner, and Arenado. That is legit.
I agree, and I'm a fan of the big three. That's why I said it earlier. Strength over length. I'm going to go with that because that is a good one.
People are liking that on the text line.
That is good. I might tweet that out. Strength over length.
Let me find the text line.
So
they're also taking it into some kind of sexual innuendos, as you'd expect. But Brony says, I don't want to lengthen it. I want to strengthen it, is an all-time Jimmy quote, which I agree. I agree with.
So
it's good stuff.
So Trey Turner would be great. Don't get me wrong. I just am thinking about what's realistic, other teams that are in on it. And when you have a talent like Wynn, who's literally knocking on the doorstep now, and you have a guy who, if you plug in Edman at shortstop, he's going to win the Gold Glove there. I mean, he's that good, or has a shot. So you have pieces that could move around to do that. That's why I don't think it's likely. But if you told me we're getting Trey Turner, I would say, awesome, let's have lunch.
I agree with you. Trey Turner also feels like a guy, I just look at him, he seems like a St. Louis Cardinal, but so does this guy. And no, I'm just saying, there's some guys who look
scrappy,
at
Caucasian guy?
When I see Dansby Swanson, I can see the man in a Cardinals uniform. Now, Dansby Swanson apparently projected to get about a 6-year deal for $148 million. Trey Turner's going to get probably $10 million more per year than Dansby Swanson. Again, I don't think they should go after a shortstop personally, or I don't think they're going to, but I've always kind of looked at Dansby Swanson. He just seems like a dude that's going to end up playing for the St. Louis Cardinals.
I like him, and that'd be another guy that I couldn't argue against getting. I just think based on what the Cardinals have and will have short term, they're not going to be in on that.
Sanderson, why aren't we going for Contreras? Maybe they are. We don't know yet.
I think they're kicking the tires on that. They'd be crazy not to.
Sanderson, no, Charlie. He's not a Cardinal. Are you talking about Dansby? Let's see. The all-knowing expert. Let's see. They cashed in on the Love Fest last year. No excuse not to pony up for Rodon or a shortstop, saying they made all the money off the the Yachty and the Albert 700, and now it's time to spend some of that cash. Billy DeWitt.
If you said we're going after Rodon, I would say, great, let's get a bat, then we'll have lunch. But I don't think that's the biggest need. Like, to me, the bat is the thing.
It's funny, nobody's even bringing up Quintana's name anymore. I mean,
I would have had that done. Like, I want all the arms.
Here's Quintana, who he just happened to start your first game of the playoffs, was your most consistent arm down the stretch, and he's kind of seemingly on the back burner. Now, in our realm, I don't know, maybe that's different in the front office. Maybe they're talking about it
I
still.
guarantee that they're weighing it. To me, with the rotation the way it is and the way injuries always crop up, I'm bringing him back, and I'll be like, all right, let's have a couple of shots and let's spend a little like we're drunk here.
Let's go to lunch.
But let's get the arms done, okay? So that way you have all the arms. Who knows what Jack's going to be, but he's in the mix. Waino's in the mix. Quintana's good. Montgomery's good. Michaelis is good. Maybe Reyes is back. We have a lot of guys in the mix. Some of the young guys could progress. Let's get 19 starters possibly in here for spring training. Then we'll figure it out. Then we'll get a bat. Then we'll go to lunch.
So Jose Quintana, I love the idea, but if you're him, how do you sell Quintana right now on coming back to the Cardinals when you have all of those spots taken? And by the way, I agree with you. There's going to be an injury, but I don't think you have one of these dudes who's like the type of guy who's going to accept the bullpen role. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where, to me, bring back Q 100%. But I think there's going to be a trade first before that happens, because you're not putting Flaherty in the bullpen. You're not putting Waino in the bullpen. You're not putting Matz in the bullpen. You're not putting Miles Michaelis in the bullpen. Who did I forget? Oh, Jordan Montgomery. You're not putting him in the bullpen. That's 5 guys. If they're all healthy, I mean, are you gonna say, Quintana, hey, right now, you know the math too. We have 5 guys. Look, there's probably going to be an injury. You're probably going to get a spot. If not, we're putting you in the bullpen. I don't think Jose Quintana, after the year he had, I don't think that's his best option.
There'll be other suitors out there, and who knows what money's going to be involved. I'd try to sign that guy and figure it out later, because you're going to be in a situation where you're going to need all of them.
And if we go out and get a big pitcher, one of those guys that you just named is going to have to be in the bullpen, which I don't know if I see that happening,
Well, none of those guys...
I don't think they accept it.
Right. You can't say, Adam Wainwright, come back for your final year. Oh, by the way, you're in the pen. Jordan Montgomery is not going to take a pen role. To me, the type of guy who is that type of role we've seen in recent years, who was the Houston Astros pitcher, Colin McHugh. Like somebody like that who you bring in as a depth starter. Look, you're our 6th starter. You're probably going to end up being in our rotation because there's going to be an injury. But if not, you're a very valuable bullpen piece. I don't see any of those guys for the Cardinals as somebody accepting that role. Now, maybe Dakota Hudson has to accept that role, but he's at the point in his career where, look, you can't choose what you're going to do. But I don't see these guys who are making $10, $15 million a year. They're not going to the pen. The only reason Matz went to the pen is because of injury.
Right. And then I still think Hudson has a shot of being a good starter. I just don't know how you go into spring training without 18 potential starters based on track record. So, yeah, Quintana you might not be able to get because he might not want to do it, and someone's going to offer him more money than you feel it's reasonable to pay him when you have all these other starters. But I want the Cardinals to have a bunch of good options in the starting rotation. I don't think they're going to go out and get a big-name starter because they got too many decent options in-house. So what are the priorities? Bad.
Justin Verlander.
I do it.
Nice little 3-year deal.
I do it.
He's about 40.
I do it.
Do you trade Flaherty? Flaherty, I would trade Flaherty. The only reason I say that is because he's gone after this year. What if you can get a player back with 4 years of control? I think Jack Flaherty, very good chance he still could. You could say, Charlie, you're crazy. I think there's still a very good chance he could be your best pitcher in 2023. I understand that he needs to stay healthy, and it's a broken record. We've said that now for 3-4 years. But I would move Jack Flaherty simply because this is your last year of control. I don't think he's coming back. And if you can get a player or two that can stay here for 3-4 years, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Cardinals.
Charlie is right.
I can't argue with that, but I agree with you. I think Flaherty's going to be good this year. I think Flaherty is an ace that hasn't been able to be an ace because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I agree with you.
And maybe on the other side of that is, look, sometimes these guys, I know Frank brings it up. Frank's coming in here. Sometimes these guys magically have the best season of their lives in their walk year, right? It's staying healthy, but it's also, when are you going to be more determined to work hard, to put everything into your craft when you know you can hit a ridiculous payday that next year? I mean, there's a different focus for players entering that free agent year.
Yeah. I'll be honest, though, with Jack. I mean, the one thing about him, and I don't care who you ask that knows him, that's played with him, that has coached him, that he always has that approach. I mean, every single time he's out there, just haven't been able to stay healthy.
On the text line, 855-282-8255, the all-knowing expert, all their starters are soft tossers, which that doesn't play in the bullpen. He's kind of right about that. Sanderson, I think you're spot on, Charlie. I don't know what that was about, but thank you. Let's see. The all-knowing expert, Kat, you think they might be looking to shop Dakota Hudson?
I think they would like to see what's out there because, I mean, they do have a lot of options, and I think Dakota has value. I'm not saying you're going to get, an all-star for him, but I'm telling you, if he's healthy and they get his head right, that guy's going to win some games for somebody. And I think he's more valuable as a starter than a bullpen guy. He's just got to get it right. I mean, people forget what he did a couple of years ago. He was a really good starting pitcher.
I would trade Matz before I trade Hudson.
Steven Matz?
Mm-hmm.
Got a nice contract.
Maybe, I guess, would he have a little bit more value being a lefty? Or does it not matter?
I think his $11 million price tag for the next 3 seasons is going to be
for a guy
that
that isn't healthy.
Yeah.
And let's be real, Dakota Hudson doesn't have tremendous value, but he could be a nice depth piece. I also just think with some of these guys, you can say it's a cliche, but sometimes just change of scenery works for both parties. At this point in his career, as Dakota Hudson, who wants to be a big league starter, and he looks at the folks ahead of him with contracts for the Cardinals, don't you think he would appreciate going somewhere else? And maybe that's a bad team, by the way. But Dakota Hudson could probably be a starter on a bad team and try to figure things out. He's been a good big league pitcher. He has been. I know
He's still young.
Right, he's young. I know a lot of the analytics folks have said for years that Dakota Hudson, the way he pitches is not sustainable because he doesn't strike guys out and he walks a lot of folks. And that some of his years of good ERAs, everybody kind of said, look, this is going to eventually catch up. He had a lot of small sample size seasons. Still, if I'm Dakota Hudson at this point in my career, I want to make 30 starts and I want to make some money in a couple years. I probably want to leave the Cardinals. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that's probably, I don't want to speak for him, but I would say I think that's a fair guess, right? I mean, he wants to start. He wasn't happy when they sent him out. He wasn't happy about going to the bullpen. So, I mean, that's a clue. He wants to be a starter again, and he needs an opportunity. So that makes sense.
Send him to the Pirates.
No.
No Pirates?
He don't want to go there. I don't want to do that to Dakota.
Well,
he's a good guy.
He can't really choose where he's going at this point. I think he wants to make 30 starts a year, and that's probably going to be a team like the Pirates. Don't you think? Somebody of that ilk?
Can you make it
the A's?
A nicer place for him?
Knowing their history, they'll give us their ace for Hudson. They've given up who? Musgrove, Cole. Long list.
And the sad thing is, they were close. The Pirates were close.
They were there in 2013.
And then they made deals trying to get over the hump that kind of destroyed them. Like that Archer deal killed them.
That Archer deal is one of the worst deals of all time.
Yeah.
Tyler Glasnow, who probably will win a Cy Young Award one of these years. Dakota Hudson, by the way, career ERA 3.61, career FIP 4.54.
What was his best year?
So his best year, now he's been banged up. So his best year, I'm going to choose 2019 because he made 32 starts. So 32 starts in 2019. He was 16-7. He finished 5th in the Rookie of the Year. He had a 3.35 ERA. He threw 174 2/3 innings. He did lead the league in walks with 86. Had a high whip, so he put a lot of people on. And again, I know if I'm boring you with FIP, it's one of those numbers where if your FIP is that much higher, you can look at that and say, this guy had really good luck also for that particular season. You are looking at a player who over the course of 5 seasons, his FIP is a run higher than his ERA.
No, I get that.
As a predictive stat.
But you're also talking about a young guy who was still kind of fine-tuning his game before he ran into a bunch of injuries. And, Ollie's been pretty outspoken that Hudson can't walk people with his stuff, and he got to work quicker because when he doesn't work quick, he walks guys.